Sheldon, how are you?
I'm good, Baruch Hashem. Good evening.
Yes, I'm sure. Further.
Oh,
Okay, so today's daf is Masechta Baba Kamma Daf Samach, and we're going to begin from the Mishnah Daf Nun Tes Amud Beis.
would you?
Nun Tes Amud Beis.
Wait.
So the Mishnah begins. Okay, we're going to go through it, and then we get into a Agadita Gemara. Very interesting Agadita Gemara. Okay, Nun Tes Amud Beis by the Mishnah. Hamagdish b'soich sedei chaver shloi b'rshus. Someone who piles his grain into the field of his friend. Okay, someone who piles his grain into the field of his friend. Hi, Lewis, we just began Nun Tes Amud Beis. And without permission. So he puts all his wheat into somebody else's field. And the owner of the field's animal ate up the wheat, potter. He's not obligated to pay for the wheat. Why? Because who gave you permission to bring your wheat into my field? If the owner's animal slipped on that wheat, right? Let's say, broke his leg. The guy that brought the wheat, that one that piled the wheat, is obligated to pay.
Different. If he's a shomer chinam or shomer or he gets paid. If he gets paid for it, he should not have to pay.
Yeah, but even if he's a shomer chinam, right? Because even if he's he's not a shomer. Nobody's a shomer.
Pay him for let him keep this stuff by him, then he should not pay.
Right.
Because the man has to watch him. He got paid for this.
He had no. He brought like a michshol. He brought like a bar into somebody else's field. He put his wheat there without permission. So if the owner's animal slips on that wheat, you had no permission to bring wheat into my field. I didn't even give you permission.
That's the difference. If he doesn't get paid for watching it.
But if he get permission to bring the wheat into the field, then the owner of the field is obligated to pay if his animal ate up the wheat.
Ate up the wheat, yeah.
The Gemara says, our Mishnah doesn't not go like Rebbe, because the Rebbe, if it went like Rebbe, Ha'amar, Rebbe said, Achi gabal olav bal habayis lishmar. Rebbe said, if we remember, Rebbe said it's not enough to let somebody into your field. You have to tell him that you could bring your wheat into the field, and you have to add these words. I'm going to watch your wheat. And if you didn't say that, then you didn't take responsibility for the wheat. And our Mishnah does not say anything about the person. He just let him into his field, but it doesn't say that he accepted to watch the wheat. But Rapapa said, Hocha benata b'nei dori askinem. It's talking about the guy. Apparently, everybody who has fields around this person's field brings their wheat into his field. And he watches the wheat on behalf of many people, because let's say they all pile their wheat in his field. The kivin the amalei. So in this case, since he said ayal gdoish, bring it in and pile your wheat here, it's automatically he meant to say ayal the entalahu. It's automatically that he's saying I'm going to watch it. Perhaps everybody chips in so that they can use one field where they pile all the wheat, and he's basically. Even without expressing it, is taking responsibility. Now we move on to Eish. The Mishnah says, a guy gives a torch, or even a gacheles, let's say a coal, in the hands of somebody who's an imbecile or under bar mitzvah or cherish death. So and that imbecile brought it to somebody and started a fire with it. So Pater b'dinei Adam, the guy doesn't have to pay b'dinei Adam, because the Chereshite to the cotton did the action of burning somebody else's wheat. But b'chaya b'dinei Shemayim, you're obligated to pay min hashemayim. If you don't want to get punished in the next world, you should pay back the loss, because you're negligent. You don't give a fire or a piece of coal to the hands of a Chereshite to the cotton. But sholach biad pikeach. But if you sent it in the responsibility of a normal person, and that normal person, you told him, go burn somebody else's field. You hired somebody to burn down somebody else's field. HaPikeach kayev, the normal person is obligated to pay. Why? Because you can't make a shliach l'dvar avera. Just because you told him to go burn somebody else's field doesn't mean he's your shliach. Ein shliach l'dvar avera. Now the Mishnah says, what happens? Echad hevi es ur. One guy brought the fire. So let's say he brought a little bit of a candle. Somebody brought the wood, and because he brought the wood, the fire started and spread. The last guy that brought the wood, he's obligated to pay because the fire itself wouldn't have done any damage. Let's say the first guy brought plain pieces of wood that wouldn't have done any damage. Then somebody put a candle right next to the wood. The one that brought the fire is chayiv. Now the Mishnah says, let's say your guy brought wood. That's person number one. The guy brought a fire, but it wouldn't have gone anywhere. But a third guy came and he was fanning the fire. So he was like blowing on it. So he's causing the fire to spread. The one that fanned the fire, he's obligated to pay. But let's say it was a hurricane that caused the fire to spread. Kulam Patun, everybody's not obligated to pay because it was a ruach she'ena mitzuya. An uncommon wind will make it like an oinus, nobody's chayiv. Rish Lakish said in the name of Chesia, Lo Shana, we didn't learn that the be'era, that if you give a chereshoit of a katan, you're potter from paying. Eshel mosoloi gacheles beliba. If you gave a piece of coal and the coal was fanned by the chereshoit of a katan. Ava mosoloi shall heves, but if you give a chereshoit of a katan a complete torch, chayev, then you're obligated to pay. My tama. Why? Massive garmaloi, kagarmaloi. You're giving a big torch to a chereshoit of a katan it's your action that caused the fire. Rabbi Yochanan goes very lenient. Even if you give this insane person a big torch, potter, you're not obligated to pay. Why? My tama. The fact is, you need the insane person to grip the torch. So it's partly the cherish's fault. So you can't fully blame the guy, on this world, the guy that gave him the torch. But Rav Yochanan would agree, I will not obligate the guy that gives it to the cherishite gavza. If you give him dry wood, we go on Amud Aleph, Samach, silta, you give him silta, which is silta is thin wood, shrug and a flame, and this even without the chereshite of a cotton, this would have caused the fire. So you didn't really need the chereshite of a cotton, but maybe they did a little thing. That hu vade ma'aseh today garmo, it's his action that caused the fire. Then you'll be chayiv, even according to Rabbi Yochanan. Next Gemara, shalach biyad pikeach hapikeach chayiv. Of course, we saw that if he gave a torch to a normal person, the normal person is obligated to pay if he did something with that fire. Amar Rab Nachman by Yitzchak, Rab Nachman by Yitzchak said, Mandatani liba, if you learn the word as fanning as the word liba, loy mishtabish, that's not an incorrect way to say the word fanning a fire. Mandatani niba, even if you say the word niba as the word fanning a fire, loy mishtabish, you're not making a mistake. Mandatani liba, the one that says liba means fanning a fire, loy mishtabish, you're not making a mistake. The pasuk says balabas eish. You see, with fire, you need to fan a fire. Uman the tani niba loy mishtaba. The word niba also is associated with fire. The ksiv bayret nivs fasayim. The breath that comes out of when a person moves his lips, ear comes out, right? Ear comes out, and that causes the fanning of a fire. So the word niba, or in the Mishnah, or liba, is both correct versions of words that could be used in our Mishnah. Now the Gemara says like this. It's interesting, until our time, we didn't, to be able to start a fire was a big, big thing, until they invented matches. That I'm not sure it's 150 years old, maybe less, that concept. So in the time of, up until the time of the Gemara, it was very hard to create a fire. Anyway, lipsa haruach, kulam peturin. If a wind came, and blew, and we said it was a hurricane that came and made the fire spread, everybody's potter. Tana Rabbanim. We learned in the Brisa, liba v'lipsa ruach. Let's say a man fanned the fire, but also the wind fanned the fire. So if your fanning would have been enough to start the fire, you didn't need the wind to join in. Chayev, you're obligated to pay. If without the wind helping you out, your fanning alone wouldn't have spread the fire, potter, you're not obligated to pay because it's you and natural wind that caused the fire. Says the Gemara, Amai. Why is it that way? Why are you potter? On Shabbos, lehevi kizoyre v'ruach misayosei. When you winnow on Shabbos, so you're spreading the kernel from its shaft, right? And you throw it into the wind. And what separates it? The wind helps you separate it, and you're chayiv a carbon chatas. So why is it when it comes to holding somebody liable for starting a fire and burning down somebody else's field, we're saying that, if he was assisted in the fanning of the fire via a regular wind, you're potter from paying. Why? Why is that different than Shabbos? So the Gemara gives 4 answers. Amar Abaya said, and here we're talking about this guy was blowing in one direction, and that's not where the fire went. The wind was blowing in the other direction, and the natural wind, overpowered his bellowing, and therefore it went in the opposite direction, not where he wanted it to go, and that's why it's your potter. Rava says, you were blowing it like an irregular wind. And all of a sudden a hurricane came and blew it further. So when are you potter, like we learned in our Mishnah, that you could be fanning something, but if a big wind came, a ruach she'enim mitzuya, that's not common wind, and that caused the fire to spread, then you're not obligated to pay. Rab Zera Amar Kagoin, that samure, that you didn't blow at all. We're talking about you like, your breath was coming out of your mouth, but you weren't really fanning the fire. Just like you blow to warm your hands in the winter, that's not a blowing, that's not a bellowing that will cause a fire. So that's why you're potter. Rav Ashi says, you're all potter, very different than Shabbos. Okay, Nizikin is different than Shabbos. Saying Hilchas Shabbos, Zoyreya, V'ruach Masayosai, when you winnow and the wind is helping you separate the kernel from its shaft, that you're liable. Hani minali in Shabbos, only the Gabe Hilchas Shabbos. The Meleches Machshevach Sasha Torah. The Torah just wants, what does the Torah hold you liable? If you do a malacha with that creates your intention. What you intended to do was accomplished. If you accomplish something, that's the most important, and you chayav a carbon katas. Aval hacha by nizikin grama ba'almahu. You're a cause. There are 2 causes over here: your bellowing and the normal wind. Ugrama ben nizakin. Since you're only a cause of the nizakim, but you're not the mazik itself, so then you're potter. You're not obligated to pay. New Gemara, new Mishnah. Hasharleach hasabera. You started a fire, right? Va'achla eitzim, it destroyed wood. Well, wood is normal for fire to destroy. Oyavonim, or it destroyed nice stones. Let's say you had a nice marble and it's destroyed. The fire destroyed the stones. Oyafar, or it destroyed ground soil where you could have planted something, and now a fire went over that soil and its nutrients are lost. So Chayev, the one that started the fire, is obligated to pay. Shenema, that's the pasuk. Kiseitzi eish, if you start a fire, umatza kaitzim, and it found some flammable thorns, v'nechal, and the fire destroyed gadish, somebody's piled wheat, or Kamma, or somebody's unharvested wheat, or hasada, or destroyed a regular field. Shalim yishalim hamaves be'era. The one that started the fire has to pay for the damages. That's what the pasuk says. Amar Rava said, Lama li the kasav rachmana koitzim gadish Kamma v'sada. Why did the Torah have to give 4 examples of what a fire destroyed that we hold the person who started the fire is obligated to pay? So the Gemara says, we need all 4 examples. The if the Torah would have just said that it destroyed thorns, flammable bushes. Koitzim, that's the whole, we hold the guy that started the fire liable. Because no one is careful not to start a fire next to bushes, because bushes are not expensive, right? So therefore, it's very common that you're going to be negligent. So the Torah holds you responsible if you started such a fire. Avogadish, to start a fire next to a piled piece of wheat, a pile of wheat, the no one really starts a fire near there. It's not common that people would be negligent to do such a thing. Maybe the Torah would say, if it happened, you're not obligated to pay because it was something out of the ordinary. So ikas rachmana gadish. If the Torah would just written gadish, the pile of wheat, havimini gadish chia rachmana. The Torah obligated you, the one that started the fire, to pay bishum to have some merubahu, because he caused a great loss. Avokoitzim, causing a loss to a bush, to have some muadhu, it's not a big loss. Malay, I would think you don't have to pay. So that's why the Torah gave the example of Kamma and gadish. Now, a gadish and kaitzim. Kamma lamali. Why did the Torah give the example of Kamma, of standing wheat? So the Torah tells you, ma kama bagoli. Fire is only obligated, only what you can see. Av kol bagoli, only what you can see. So let's say somebody in the field hid, let's say, pots and pans in the field, and the fire started, so it was hidden. Then there's a patur of Aish. Aish does not pay for something that is covered. That's called tamen, hidden in the bushes, hidden in the wheat. If something is hidden there, you don't have to pay for that. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Huda, the Mechayv Aniski Tama Be'esh Kama Lamali. Rabbi Huda holds you are obligated to pay for hidden stuff in the fire. So why does the Torah write Kama? So the Gemara says, L'Rabbi is Kol Bali Koima, that the Torah obligates you to pay anything that you find that has height to it. That means, as Rashi explains, even a animal or tree that got caught up in that fire, you're obligated to pay. How do you know you're obligated to pay for anything that has height to it? From the word oi, that adds even animals and trees. Rabbi Yehuda says oi boy. Rabbi Yehuda says oi just tells you that you have to that it's separating the pasuk. That means you don't have to burn a kamma, kaitzim, gadish, and soda. Each one is separate. You're still obligated to pay. To break up the pasuk, that's what you need. Oi. Rabbanan l'chalek menolehu. They said nafkulu oi hasadeh. There's another oi that says that oi, that means that each one's separate, you're chayiv to pay. Rabbi Huda, I did the kosav rachmana oi hakama, kosav oi sada. That the ois is extra. You're right. I don't need a drasha for it, because once you're telling me oi hakama to marba kol bale koima, so the Torah wrote oi hasada, even though there's no drasha to it. Now the Gemara asks the final question before we get to the agarata. Sada lamali. What is the Torah telling you that if the Aish destroyed a field, you have to pay? Latuye comes to tell you, and that if it destroyed a plowed field or it singed stones, which is not, it's not an actual destruction that a fire would normally do, you're obligated to pay for that. Says the Gemara, let the Torah just write sada, and I won't need all these other examples of sada means a field, it can mean gadish or kama and kaitzim, whatever is found in the field. No, says the Gemara, if the Torah would have just written the word sada, I would think that sada means what's normally on a field, like wheat is on a field. But if you destroy the field itself, you don't have to pay. Kamash malam, fire, you have to pay for everything. You have to pay if you destroyed a plowed field, if you destroy thorns or standing wheat or piled of wheat, except, according to the Chachamim, except something hidden in the wheat, you don't have to pay. Now we go into interesting Agarata Gemara. Amar Rab Shimon ben Achmeni, Amar Rab Yonasan. Rab Shimon ben Achmeni says, "Ein Puranius bal la'olam." There's no, Hashem does not bring calamities to the world. Ela b'zman she'ashoim ba'olam. If there are very evil people in the world, Hashem brings calamities into the world. I mean, you have to accept that. That's why you ask a question: why would a Kadosh Baruch Hu bring a tsunami or something like that, or some natural disaster? It's because they're Rishoyim. But the one that gets punished with it, let's say a plague, tzaddikim, the righteous one, they die first. So we darshan in homiletically, when there's a fire come out from God, like a disease, when there's thorns, when there's rishoyim around, Hashem makes these disease happen. The one that die, the ones that fall first is the tzaddikim. Shenema v'nechel gadish, it destroyed the piled up wheat. V'achel gadish loinema el v'nechel gadish. Shenechel gadish kavar. These were piled up wheat who are like in this parable known as tzaddikim, and they were already tzaddikim from before this happened, and they're the ones that are destroyed. Well, the Gemara is going to explain why should tzaddikim be the ones to fall first. Tana Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef taught a similar idea. Parshas Boy, it says God commanded that you're not to leave your house till the morning after Makas Becharis. Why? Since God gave permission to the Malach HaMaves that night, he doesn't know who's a tzaddik in Russia. Everybody's going to fall. He actually picks on a tzaddik first. Tzaddik v'Rasha. Tzaddik goes first and then a Rasha. Bachi Rav Yosef started to say, Kula hai nami la'ayin damim. Are these tzaddikim worth nothing? Why does Hashem, when there's a calamity and people are dying left and right, why the tzaddikim going first? Abai explained, Tivusui legabai. This is a good thing for them. Before it gets too bad, the tzaddik gets nifter. So just like before a big calamity happens, some tzaddikim like Musushalach was nifter before the Mabel, something like that. So they should not see how bad it's going to come. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav. We go on the Amid Beis, Samach Amid Beis. A person should come into a city when it's light outside and leave the city when it's light. In other words, don't travel during the dark if you don't have to. And ki toiv is another name to say about light, like Vayara Hashem es or ki toiv. So it's always good to have it light outside when you're traveling. Shenema, and we find the remes for that in the Torah. Atem loisetzi ish mi pesach beisoy ad baika. You shouldn't leave your house until the morning. We don't want to travel at night. Tana Rabban, Deva be'ir. This was the Gemara that they used during COVID. When there's a disease outside in the city, kanes raglecha, go inside. Don't travel the street. Shnema, during Makas Becharis there was a disease, and Hashem didn't allow them to leave their houses till the next morning. There's another pasuk. Leich ami boy bechaderecha. Go, my nation, go into your rooms. Uskar dulascha, and close your doors ba'adcha behind you. Another pasuk says, Mishchuch tishakal cherev. If there's a sword outside killing people, umechadarim ema, from the rooms there should be terror. In other words, be in your room. Don't walk outside. Don't be brave to walk outside. My va'omer, why do you have to bring me 3 psukim? I understand if there's a dever be'er, if there's a disease in the city, try to stay indoors. Why do I need 3 psukim to teach me the same idea? The chitem, I would think, Hanimi Belaila, what the first pasuk is by Makas Becharis, by night you should go indoors. Alva b'yamama, during the daytime, lie. Don't. It's okay to walk outdoors. Tashma, the pasuk says, Leich amin boy bechadorecho skar delasecha. Go and close the door behind you, even during the daytime. Don't be outdoors. The chitem, are you going to say? Hanimi l'deika ema magavoy. If there's nothing terror inside the house, but if there's terror inside the house, so maybe it's best to congregate outside the house. Let's say there's a lot of anxiety in the house, so maybe it's best to be with people outside the house. I would think if you go outside and sing amongst a group of people outdoors, that will be better for you. Shnema tashma, come and see. Even though there is out in you're terrified in your house, maybe you don't have news or internet, you don't know what's going on. Let outside the sword destroy, but don't be outdoors. Rava be'idin rischa, during the time of plague, he went one step further. Even though it's a hot climate in Bavel, he would close the windows. That death could come through your windows, so you keep the windows shut. The rabbis taught, if there's a hunger in the city, get out of the city. When there was a hunger, Avram left Eretz Yisrael. And another pasuk, another same idea. If there's in the city, we're going to come to the seer, and there's a hunger in the city, we're going to die there. I would have thought, when do I say leave the city? Is only if you know for sure the place that you're going is a safe area. There is no hunger there. But let's say you're not sure. Maybe you have a doubt that maybe there's food there in the next place, or maybe there isn't food there. So how do you? Maybe I would say it's best to stay put. Tashma l'chu v'nipla machnei aram im yichayuni nichya. Let's go to machnei aram because there's a hunger here, and maybe we'll survive. Maybe we'll not survive. Even if we're not sure, we still should get out of the over here when there's a for sure hunger here. People try to wait it out. Don't wait it out. When there's a hunger, time to move. Tanar Rabbanan, Deva Be'ir, if there's a plague in the city, Al Yahalach Odem Be'emtza Derech, don't walk in the middle of the road. In the middle of the road, that's where the Malach HaMavis is. The Kivin, the Yavler Shusa, Mazge Lehedya. So since the Malach HaMavis has, it's his time, he walks in the middle of the road. Shalom Be'ir, but if it's normal times in the city, Al Yahalach Betzidei Dracham, don't walk on the side of the road when it's like abandoned, right? And it's desolate there. The Kivin, the last Leirushusa, since the Malach HaMavis has no permission to be there, right? In that city, he hides out on the side of the road, so you should be careful. Try to walk in the middle of the road where there are people. If there's a dever in the city, don't go alone into the shul. You think you're doing something religious, but really don't go into the shul. They close down the shul for a reason, because the Malach HaMavis puts his stuff over there, and he's coming there at night, coming there to pick it up. If there's no 10 people there, and there's no children learning there, and it's just you yourself, don't go there alone during the time that there's a Deva Be'ir. Tanar Rabbanan, where the rabbis taught, Kalavim Beichen, if you hear dogs crying, Malach HaMavis B'le'ir, then the Malach HaMavis is coming to the city. Kalavim Mesachakim, but if the Klav and dogs are having a good time, Elianavi B'le'ir, Elianavi is coming to the city. If there's no female dog there, then you can assume that the Kalavim, watching dogs, you'll be able to see what the future is going to be. Apparently, the dogs know when Mashiach is coming and when a plague is coming. Okay, let's just do one more minute and then we'll stop. Yosef Rabbi Ami Rabasi Kamei Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Rabbi Ami Rabasi was sitting in front of Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Mar Amalei, one asked Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. They were sitting in front of Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha and they want to hear Torah from him. He said, Amalei Lema Mar Shmaitzes, tell us some halacha. Mar Amalei Lema Mar Agadata, tell us some Agadata Gemara. Psach Lemei Agadata v'lo Shavak Lemar, Psach Lemei Shamatza v'lo Shavak Lemar. He started, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha started to say an Agadata. The other guy says, I don't want to hear it. He started saying halacha, and the other person didn't want to hear it. Amalehem, he said to him, you're not letting me say anything. I'll give you a marshal. What's going on here? Man has two wives. One is a young wife, and one's an old wife. So Yalda, his young wife, is pulling out his white hairs because she wants her husband to look young. And there's a Kana, the second wife, who's an older woman, is pulling out his black hair. Nimsa kereich mekan mekan. He's bald from both angles because each wife is pulling out his hair. So don't marry wives that of the same age. If you're marrying two wives. Amalohan, he said to them, I'm going to say one thing that both of them, but that you can learn two things from. Halacha and Agadata. The Torah says, the one, the fire started by itself, and the one that started the fire has to pay. So he said like this, Omar, this is a remez, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu feels bad about. Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Olai l'shalom es ha'be'er shivarti. I have to pay because I started a big fire. I started a fire to burn the Beis Hamikdash. Fire went out and destroyed the foundation. The Beis Hamikdash is going to be built with fire. So God takes responsibility for burning down the Beis Hamikdash, even though we know it's because of our virus that started the fire. But God feels so bad about it that he almost blames himself for burning down the Beis Hamikdash, and it promises to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash by itself. Shmaitza, I'll tell you a halacha, and this will end. The Torah says the fire started by itself, and the Torah considers it as if the man that started the fire, he is the damager, because we hold that Eishai is as if you shot an arrow. If you shot an arrow at somebody, you have to pay Nezek Tsar Rishi Vishavas and Moishes. So if you start a fire, according to this Gemara, you would have to pay nezek tsar ripi sheves shabaishis, because it's as if you're like an other hamazik. But others learn it's like your mum and hamazik, and therefore you wouldn't have to pay nezek tsar ripi sheves shabaishis. So this is Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka learning in the pasuk kisech two things, agarta and also a halacha. Okay, we'll stop here. Baruch Hashem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shichoya. I get you.
I get
Thank
the
you.
tomorrow.
Okay, I get you.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Shulam Yisrael.
I get the nacht.